Have you ever stayed in an Airbnb that seemed perfect but turned into a nightmare? This story will make you think twice before booking your next stay. It's the creepiest guest experience ever. It all started when Emily decided to take a much-needed break from her hectic city life. She found a charming little Airbnb in a small town, perfect for a quiet weekend getaway. The listing had great reviews, and the pictures showed a cozy, rustic cabin surrounded by lush forest. It seemed like a dream come true. When Emily arrived, the place was exactly as described. The host, Mr. Thompson, was friendly, if a bit peculiar. He was an older man with a kind face but eyes that seemed to linger just a bit too long. He gave Emily a quick tour of the cabin, pointed out some hiking trails, and left her with a warm smile. The first night was peaceful. Emily enjoyed a quiet dinner on the porch, listened to the sounds of nature, and read a book by the fireplace. She went to bed early, excited for a weekend of relaxation. But the second night, things took a turn for the worse. Emily was awakened by a strange noise around midnight. It sounded like footsteps on the porch. She sat up in bed, her heart pounding. Had someone broken in? "Hello? Is anyone there?" she called out, but there was no answer. Emily got up and checked the front door, which was locked. She peeked out the window but saw nothing. She tried to convince herself it was just an animal and went back to bed. The next morning, she mentioned the noise to Mr. Thompson when he stopped by to check on her. He seemed concerned but reassured her that it was probably just a deer or raccoon. Emily tried to brush it off and went about her day, hiking and enjoying the serene surroundings. That night, the noises started again. This time, it was louder and closer. It sounded like someone was trying to open the front door. Emily's heart raced as she grabbed her phone and dialed Mr. Thompson's number. "Mr. Thompson, someone's outside the cabin," she whispered urgently. "I'll be right there," he replied. Within minutes, he arrived, flashlight in hand. They searched around the cabin but found no one. Emily felt a bit embarrassed, thinking maybe she was just being paranoid. "See? Nothing to worry about," Mr. Thompson said with a reassuring smile. "But if you're really scared, you can stay in my house tonight." Emily declined, wanting to believe it was all just her imagination. She locked all the doors and windows, double-checking everything before going to bed. Around 3 a.m., Emily woke up to a cold breeze on her face. The window by her bed was wide open. She knew she had locked it. Fear gripped her as she slowly turned to see a dark figure standing at the foot of her bed. "Who are you? What do you want?" she screamed, but the figure didn't move or speak. It just stood there, staring at her. Terrified, she grabbed her phone and ran out of the cabin, not looking back. She called the police and Mr. Thompson from her car, shaking uncontrollably. The police arrived and searched the cabin but found no signs of forced entry or anyone hiding. They suggested it might have been a bad dream or sleepwalking, but Emily knew what she saw. She decided to cut her trip short and leave the next morning. Mr. Thompson was very apologetic and offered her a refund, but Emily just wanted to get out of there. As she drove away, she glanced back at the cabin one last time. She could have sworn she saw a shadow move in the window. Months later, Emily still couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. She had trouble sleeping and would wake up in a panic, convinced someone was in her room. She eventually found out that several previous guests had reported similar experiences, but none as terrifying as hers. If you ever book an Airbnb that seems too perfect, remember Emily's story. Sometimes the most charming places can hide the darkest secrets, and you never know who or what might be watching you while you sleep.